This week, Apple announced a new public beta of watchOS 10, which is the operating system for the Apple Watch, which means we can take a hands-on look and see what this new watch operating system has to offer. Diving right in, number one here, and one of the first things that you might actually notice after installing this new operating system is that the home screen, that kind of honeycomb design of the home screen, it looks the same, but it actually acts a little bit differently. It's actually kind of hard to notice, but it is slightly better. There's less side-to-side real estate, and it's more vertical space. So in some ways, it's actually closer to a list, but overall, you're less likely to get lost when you're kind of swiping around and looking for the application that you want to open, because it is largely a vertical design. Now that scroll wheel or that digital scroll that you have, it does act more like a list would as opposed to a zoom. Number two, widgets. Right from the lock screen, you can either scroll up with the digital scroll wheel or you can swipe up with your finger and you'll see this new widget area. Now what's cool is that this area is customizable, so you can add or you can subtract widgets. For example, I've always been kind of interested in tracking my sleep, so I'll add that widget here. But it's also intelligently listed, meaning that the widgets actually reorder themselves based on what's most likely that you might be interested in at the moment. So here in this case, I just set a little timer, and you can see that now that timer is at the top of my widgets lists. So in watchOS 10, there are a few slight changes to the way the buttons of the watch operate. In watchOS 9, we used to swipe up to pull up that control center, but now you guys know that ends up being a widget area. So now if you press that side button, the control center will actually display. And that same button, if you actually double tap it, will now open up your digital wallet so you can pay with Apple Cash or whatever kind of digital cards you have in your digital wallet. Now with watchOS 10, Apple is also rolling out topographical maps. I think it's gonna be a slow rollout. Currently, I've mostly been seeing topo maps in state parks in California. Oddly, if you zoom in really close on the state line of California and Oregon, you'll actually see that it's really only available on the California side. So I do expect more and more topographical information to be added throughout all the other states within watchOS 10 as this beta goes from beta to becoming a full release, probably in that September timeframe. Also, as part of the new map features, you can click on some of these trail names and get detailed information about the trails. You can see things like the hours of the park information, ratings of the trails, even photos of the trails in a lot of situations. But by far, my favorite update to watchOS 10 is without a doubt the addition of cycling power natively within watchOS 10. I actually use a Quark power meter that's built into my SRAM front chainring. It is Bluetooth enabled, which is a requirement here. You can't use any sort of Ant Plus style connection that you might have with your power meter or an older power meter. It will not connect to your Apple Watch. But watchOS 10 has the ability to connect to Bluetooth power meters as well as Bluetooth speed cadence monitors. And what's interesting here is that Apple can actually combine all of this information, the heart rate from your wrist, the power meter from your Bluetooth connected power meter device, motion data, all of which can help estimate your FTP. So that's your functional threshold power, or about how much power you can average for an hour if you went all out. And cyclists do tend to use this number to gauge fitness. I used it a lot when I was training for Ironman races, but they'll build workouts off of that specific number, determine specific training zones. A lot of times you'll use a percentage of FTP to design workouts. And you can edit the number of zones within the app. So if you're a 5-zone guy as opposed to the default 6 zones that Apple provides, you can edit that information. And I should also mention that the estimation of FTP, it's not gonna show up immediately with this new beta release. It is gonna take a little bit of use to be able to figure out and calculate your specific FTP. It's not based off of like one easy bike ride. You'll need about 5 decently hard efforts before the watch establishes an estimated FTP value for you. Now you can also use your iPhone as a cycling computer when it's connected and in range of your Apple Watch. It's pretty cool actually. WatchOS 10 communicates with your iPhone during any sort of cycling event, turning the phone into a cycling computer of sorts, and you just mount it on your front handlebars of your bike. In this case, I'm using a Peak Design phone case and a Peak Design front bike mount here. I'm actually really happy with it, but as you can see, it's pretty impressive to be able to pause your ride on one device and have it instantaneously be displayed or paused on the other device, or vice versa. Press start on your Apple Watch and it immediately starts on your iPhone. The only thing that I feel like is really missing from this whole setup as far as being a cycling computer is a cycling radar integration. I really wish that there was some way to integrate the cycling radar information that I get from my cycling radar, which displays traffic information, and you do want to display that right there on your cycling computer, which in this case is my iPhone. I'd say it's missing that and probably some more integrated mapping, some more integrated routing, but I do think Apple is working on that. They're definitely working on it in watchOS 10. It just seems to be scattered a bit in a few different locations. The first being the Compass application. The Compass app has improved. It's automatically gonna create waypoints for you with your last cellular connection. It's gonna post a waypoint where you could potentially message an SOS, where that would be available. And then the Compass app will also show elevation data. And I mentioned the Compass app, but almost all of the native apps that Apple makes have been redesigned to work with watchOS 10. In this case, if you look at activities, which is one of the apps that I probably use most, you can see that there's just new screens here. It's just displayed slightly differently. Weather's kind of similar. It kind of follows that same pattern of having these swappable cards. There's a stock app here. Again, same kind of thing. You can see the stock information kind of animate larger, and then the graph animates in here. So the applications have just been slightly updated to have a more cohesive feel to them. Now, I'm not a huge watch face guy. I'm actually using just the basic Nike style watch face, but as part of this update, there are a few new watch faces. They've got this one that changes colors and styles just based on the time. And then there's also a Snoopy watch face with a few animations there. And then number 10, offline maps. With the help of your iPhone, your Apple Watch can view maps offline now, but it does very much require your iPhone to be connected. Yes, some of the tiles will actually be cached on your Apple Watch, but for the most part, if you're moving the map around at all, you'll need to be connected to an iPhone, and if you're offline, that data will need to have been downloaded. So something like this could help you with some sort of hiking or running situation. But I do want to make this clear that you can navigate with your Apple Watch running watchOS 10. It's fine, it's just not an ideal situation. You can basically have the Compass app that might show you waypoints and where you've been, although it's not showing that information on a map. You do have a Maps app which can navigate you to specific locations, but it does feel like it's designed a bit more for cars or maybe people trying to get somewhere quickly, whereas a cycling route might be a giant loop or routes with lots of twists and turns, no desire whatsoever to get anywhere fast. Then you have the Activities app. Again, that's the app that you're using when you're kind of performing these activities, and that's where I really think Apple needs to have some of this mapping and navigation information, potentially waypoints, potentially kind of tracking and showing where you've been and where you're going on a specific route. Hopefully Apple listens to the feedback and they continue to make progress in this particular direction. We'll just have to wait and see. But if you need a bonus, Apple has built an entirely new workout API for developers to take advantage of all of these new workout features. So there's a software company that's already working on golf stroke analysis using the Apple Watch's accelerometer data. Personally, I actually think it would be cool to see something somewhat similar from like a swimming company, looking on like stroke analysis and things like that based on the watch accelerometer information. But the workout API also allows for third-party software companies like Training Peaks to either sync or send workouts directly to watches running watchOS 10. Now, to wrap this video up, there are some important things that you are gonna wanna be aware of when you're looking at watchOS 10. This update is available for watch series 4 and above. So, if you have a watch that's below that, maybe it's time for an Apple Watch upgrade. I did see the Apple Watch Series 8 for 30% off. I don't think that that deal is gonna last long. It was probably part of that Amazon Prime deal that was last couple of days, but I'll leave a link to whatever I can find in the description of this video. But overall, I think I'm most excited about those cycling features. You know, it's not perfect. It doesn't have any sort of amazing mapping. It doesn't have any sort of detailed hill climbing information. It doesn't have that cycling radar support. So it definitely doesn't cover 100% of what I'm looking for in a cycling computer, but it's definitely a huge advancement for many of us that care about cycling power and using that for our workouts. What do you guys think? What are you most excited about within watchOS 10? Either way, you know, no matter what, whether you're using watchOS 10 or something different completely, make sure you're getting out there, swimming, biking, running, rinsing, and repeating it all over again. And we will see you guys on the next one.